I'm Etzion Becker from Haifa, Israel. Today, the 3rd of August, 2024. I would like to start sharing with you a musical piece. This is from a band I participated during 2018, and I am playing the bassoon. This is a musical piece of one of our most able musicians, Shlomo Gornich. I have a sympathy for Tel Aviv. This young conductor, Jonathan Kagan, wrote the script for this musical piece. He actually arranged it for the musical band, and we performed it. And this musical band, the Or Yehuda band, which is a city not far from Tel Aviv, one of the best non-professional bands in Israel. Today I'm playing the bassoon in the Haifa wind band. And before I continue, I wanted to share a piece I wrote about Master Moses and the music. Since I've started studying music from 1972, as I was inspired by Baba. Baba walked into my life in 1972. Till then, I didn't have any musical inclinations whatsoever. And when Baba walked into my life, as if all kinds of gates, blocked gates were opened, and I started to spend much time in earnest studying music. And over the years, the musical practice gave me many inspirations concerning the creation, the problems of humankind, and how to heal it. I spoke about this in former sessions, and I will share with you again. At Mount Sinai, Master Moses heard sublime music. It was a kind of symphony written for many voices. The symphony was written by the Godhead, and according to various legends, it was Abraham who taught this heavenly music to Moses. In fact, each person was supposed to learn to play his special tune in an instrument that we know as a physical body. It's also according to Baba that Lord Abraham was also an avatar. And when we read the biblical text, it is quite obvious. What we now call the Torah scroll is nothing more than an effort by Moses, his disciples, and prophets to preserve this music as a text. Supposedly some kind of musical score, but like a musical piece, just reading the score is not the music. It must be played to experience it. This experience was never experienced by mankind in full force, but rarely by the power of a certain spiritual training under the guidance of spiritual masters, who reached this hearing to some extent. The phenomenon of prophecy was the ability to hear this music, but also hear, probably partially. It takes the whole orchestra to hear and experience the full effect. If we were educated to play this music, there would be a special energy on earth that would change the consciousness of the human race, extract it from the shackles of enslavement to false ideas, weaken the intensity of hatred that people feel toward each other. A deeper understanding of the purpose of creation was supposed to be the share of human beings. We would understand what it means to do what we do, what the importance of the right thought is. We humans have the capability to think thoughts and fulfill them on earth. Even when we think a thought and do not actually apply it, the energy behind it solidifies in the physical world. In particular, we are now experiencing the impact of the negative thoughts that we have thought over the past thousands of years. These thoughts have exacerbated the state of Mother Earth. Diseases and disasters are our share, and the situation is only getting worse. Even if only 10% of us would bother to learn to play the music written by Moses, the situation on earth would have improved without recognition. Perhaps most wars would have been avoided and suffering would have been reduced by at least 80%. Well, this is my guess. That's what I felt. Moses' disciples may have known this. He may have given them a certain experience, even when the human orchestra refused to function. Apparently, the role of the tribes of Israel was at first to do nothing, to understand that everyone has a role to learn. What happened at Mount Sinai? The tribes were asked to sit still and do nothing. Doing nothing, sitting at rest and waiting. This is the most difficult thing for people. But due to the process through which the children of Israel passed, there was a hopeful expectation that they will trust his words. Torah is telling us that the children of Israel did experience in actual fact the manifestation of cosmic powers in the service of Master Moses. Left for a few days, and all their experiences faded in the dust of the desert. It is interesting that some masters outside Judaism confirm that the story in the Torah is true. From where do they have the visionary power to see it? It is implied that this can be reached through special spiritual training to levels of consciousness that allow examining past events which are engraved in the universal mind. As each one of us has a subconscious mind, which is an infinite storage of memories, so does exist a cosmic subconscious mind that any movement is being recorded. In various spiritual schools, it is being called the Akashic records. In the process of studying music, which I see as a closer thing to what Moses intended to establish, the first thing is learning to know the instrument. At this stage, we do nothing. It can be a short period or long, according to the talents of the pupil. Presumably, the first few hundred years the children of Israel spent after Moses' departure were dedicated to this process, and later on to play the music under the guidance of those who have passed through special mental training. This was the role of the Kohanim, priests, who presumably received special keys from Master Moses, his brother, and the prophets. The music that we hear and experience when we visit a performance by an orchestra or a group of musicians is a fabric of sounds mixed with mathematical preciseness to generate harmonies that do not exist in nature. The ability to write music that does not exist in this world implies to us that we humans have the ability to create. The world in which we live is actually what we created by virtue of our thoughts in ancient times. All creation is actually a show, a manifestation of sounds. Before creation, there is no movement, no sounds, and no consciousness. Movement produces sounds, and sounds generate consciousness. And in order to generate supreme consciousness, sounds must be woven at supreme levels. With the ability to think and talk, which characterizes and distinguishes the person, we can develop the intellect and the ability to solve problems. But there is no superior spiritual energy here, a faint echo from which we experience in a concert. The most wonderful music we hear in our ears today is a faint echo of the music that Moses intended to teach the world. This is not a unique attempt of Moses. Efforts to rehabilitate the human musical instrument have been constantly made by superior masters throughout history, but it has never succeeded except for closed circles of friends. It could have elevated human consciousness to heights that are almost unknown today. the controversies and quarrels between human beings would have almost disappeared, since all the participants would be aware of the need for contrasts and the unity of the human color spectrum. This would bring the physical creation back to its ancient Edenic state, as legends in the Torah depict, worlds that we turned into hell since we thought that we are capable of writing better music, supposedly without contrast and contrapunct. We thought to improve the creation, but we actually brought her to the brink of self-destruction. The Dinic state is actually what we call paradise, the perfect state of no wars and no bloodshed, and no madness and no prisons. Boring state. This music cannot be taught by coercion. The Talmudic story of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Creator, the Holy One, imposing his teachings on the people of Israel, or else would destroy the world, seems, in my opinion, a metaphor for our state of mind, that if we do not rise to a higher state of consciousness, we will destroy the world. One of the methods by which I read the Torah is to reverse the direction of things, ostensibly as mirror vision, when the hidden face of the text is exposed. For example, the way I read it, Cain slaughters the inner Hebel within himself. This is a metaphor for mental processes which are working constantly within us. The spiritual energy which supreme music generates is extremely shy. The faintest element of coercion, fear, hatred, and controversy kills her. This is what implies the murders of Hebel by Cain. Cain represents a physical person within us, and Hebel, or Hevel in Hebrew, the spiritual one. You can hear the sounds in hard. Hevel. Hevel is actually the moist of which comes out of our mouth when we exhale. Something airy. This is hard, earthly, and this is more heavenly. Is it possible to rehabilitate humanity that will once again play cosmic music on Earth? It always starts with taking personal responsibility. I can learn to play. Take the difficult task of getting to know the instrument. Train as steadily as necessary under the instructions of an instrumental expert. And learn to play together with a group of individuals who all need to learn to give up and listen to each other. Under the conducting of a well-trained musician, a conductor who unites the fabric of all individual sounds into an experience that cannot be created individually. Learning music may direct us to the goal to a certain extent, but every music on earth, the highest written by the highest geniuses of music, is nothing more than a hint of what Moses proposed at the time, which we did not receive. The practice of playing a musical instrument is a hint of playing the instruments that we receive that allows us to express it in this sphere. Implies the need to practice playing the physical and mental instruments we receive. Almost all of us produce a sound by the force of life, but almost all people create squeaky sounds, since the focus of most humans has been centered on coarse survival on Earth. All humans contain a reservoir of subconscious mind. loaded with ugly monsters which we have created over long periods of ignorant actions. Therefore, the construction of the private musical instrument requires a very long process of distilling the subconscious, because as long as these monsters exist, the sounds we create will not be harmonious. The very process of learning and practicing music helps to distill the inner mental structure. There is a clue in the Midrashim. Midrashim are the contemporaries, the explanations of the sages concerning the Torah, the esoteric aspect of the book of Genesis and the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses, which came as a divine revelation. About what I propose here, that each one of us is a letter in the Torah. Each one of us is a note in the universal musical score. The original Torah, the cosmic poetry, we actually broke due to the course of life we chose, and because we received a kind of substitute of Torah engraved in stone. People whose hearts turned to stones. The first Torah Master Moses received on Mount Sinai was written with a finger of gold. And actually it was not a physical Torah. I think, to my understanding, what I'm writing here, it was a musical score which we had to learn to play our musical instruments. And after we refused to receive it, which is being portrayed by breaking the first tablets, we received stone tablets, which Master Moses carved by his own hands, not by the finger of God. And this tells a tale about our spiritual situation. Despite the fact that all we have now is a written text, which is actually freezing the spirit of things, it still has a power to inspire over half of the human race, which believes in some or other versions of the law of Moses, or we were affected by it. It seems that Master Moses and his assistants planted behind the world a spiritual force that influences those who delve into it. So that despite everything, quite a few people have achieved supreme levels of consciousness. I see the stories of the Torah as metaphors, mental processes that take place inside us all the time. Master Moses was a supreme expert in the complex structure of the individual human soul, of the collective psyche of the so-called human race, of the cosmic soul and above that. It is possible that here and there on earth there are circles that deal with it, but a circle of the same scope that Moses aspired to establish, the basis of which Abraham actually laid, probably has never been tried since. I've been studying music since the early 70s. I'm playing on the flute, piano, and bassoon. I'm participating with the Haifa wind band. I wrote this during June 2019, and it was published in the local Zman Mevaseret, a weekly paper distributed in Mevaseret Zion, where we used to live, not far from Jerusalem, 10 kilometers western of Jerusalem. And after we finished our time there, we moved to Haifa, where I'm living at the moment with my wife. Okay. The musical orchestra is the closest thing what I have been sharing to all my former sessions concerning spiritual circle. Spiritual circle is a key for all of us to redeem. We, over the years, developed the attitude that achieving the goal of creation is an individual achievement. But the word cosmos, the creation, is a fractal being, we can say. And everything is working as a, how I would describe it, as a combination of contradictions, the union of opposites. As is happening while we play music, we have the two sides of the spectrum. And when you study the piano, you see the right side is the higher notes and the left side is the lower notes. And the masters know how to combine these two kinds of different energy to bring it to oneness. And this, we humans, in what we call the Dinic state or the perfect state in paradise before the fall of man, we were experiencing at that time the heavenly music. We were part and parcel of this. And what happened? The fall of man, to my understanding, is that enough that one of the participants, one of the players, will decide to change the tune. And either there will be 50 musicians or 500 or 5,000, if one person will not play the tune properly, will not focus on the director, the whole music will fall apart. So in order to achieve and construct humanity, we have to learn to work together in accord and obey the conductor. Conductor, hopefully, should be an advanced soul, egoless, who has no personal agenda, besides achieving perfection of the musical playing. But the spiritual cycle is not necessarily people sitting with musical instruments and playing music. It is a life that the people live together. They can build a cabinet, they can till the ground and they fly airplanes. It doesn't matter what they do. They work together with unison, work as one body. But the main point is the participants are focused on the divine beloved. This is the prerequisite. The fall of man. We turned our gaze away from the divine beloved. This is a story in Genesis that we decided to create our own symphony, and the Lord comes in the cool of the day and tells us, where are you? What happened to you? And then what happened? We ran away and we covered ourselves with artificial clothing that we made from the minerals and the vegetable kingdom and the animal kingdom. So what happened when we made clothes for ourselves? We lowered ourselves under these kingdoms. Instead of guiding and serving the kingdoms, we became subject to the kingdoms. Instead of focusing on the divine beloved, we focused on the minerals, on gold, making money. And this is the goal of humanity, make a career, be successful. And all these successes actually create more internal burden on us, and we actually go down the drain. This is what happens, unfortunately. From this, I wanted to speak about a little bit concerning the phenomenon of war after I've listened a couple of times to what Peter Nordin shared with us concerning Meherabad on war. Peter Nordin have never went to wars. He didn't have the experience of going to war. I went to many, many wars in Israel. Here in Israel, I was born into the war of 1948. And since 1966, I was recruited to one of the toughest military units of the Israeli army. That was as the Tank Brigade number 7. The Tank Brigade number 7 took the main brunt of the war of 1967 when Israel came under the threat of extermination by Egypt and the entire Arab world surrounding us. The Arab world denied the two-state solution, which was proposed by the United Nations during 1947, 29th of November. In Arabism or Islam, it is not possible that the people who are not Muslims will have their own independent states on Muslim grounds. And Israel, or as they call it sometimes, Palestine, has been a Muslim holy Awqaf, as they call it, Muslim holy authority since the conquests of the Muslims 1500 years ago. Whomsoever lives on a Muslim ground has only two options. Either they will adopt Islam or not. If he doesn't adopt Islam, either he will be put to death or will be spared, living as what they call dhimmi. Dhimmi is a protected citizen who has to pay his taxes. He doesn't have the full rights of ordinary citizen. Immaterial if he's honest or dishonest man. This is I don't care. You have to belong to the Islamic State. And this is not good enough. You have to pay your taxes while being humiliated. And this is the core. Call it as you wish, but this today would call it apartheid. You have a different kind of citizens. All these phenomena should disturb us as Babylonians because we learn about the past advents, the past 4,000-5,000 years. Let's say beginning from Abraham, according to the Torah meaning the directive of spiritual training. This directive was given more than 3,000 years ago, laid down the basis by Lord Abraham. He gave the keys to his sons, Isaac's, later Jacob, and when Jacob became Israel, meaning he became God-realized. Israel means God-realized person, or a straightforward person. Now, what's happening after this? The failure of the children of Israel is well described in the Bible and the Torah. We know the destruction of the two temples. The temples were houses of initiations to achieve the state of prophecy. The prophet is not especially a person who knows the future. He might, but this is a person whose consciousness is merged with the divine consciousness. So, person achieve prophecy is advanced person on the planet, as we call it, and he knows the will of God, and his role is to teach the people, warn them in order to avoid disasters, and even to tell the people what to do when the disaster looms due to their failures to do the work. And now, to have a state of a Jewish state, the uniqueness of a Jewish state is that the people here speak Hebrew. Hebrew is the original language by which the book of Genesis was written 3,000 years ago. I could have, if I would meet Master Moses these days, we could communicate in Hebrew. I don't think you people who speak English would be able to communicate with each other in English 3,000 years ago. I don't think you will be able to understand each other even 1,000 years ago. How to explain the phenomenon of war? Phenomenon of war sprang when we broke the spiritual circles. In order to eliminate war or minimize war, the conflicts, we have to reestablish the spiritual circles. And we, spiritual people, don't succeed in doing so, unfortunately. We don't know how to do it. To be more correct, we refuse to do it. This is a tragedy of humanity. War has been a heavy issue over the years. We, all of us, are concerned about this, and we all wish to have peace. Hoping that one day the tragedy of humanity, which cannot stop fighting with each other, will be diminished, disappear, and peace will prevail on earth. But the problem has been, while we move and create on earth, we develop sanskars. These sanskars are being stored in a subconscious mind. And these sanskars must be destroyed and released in order that we will move on the spiritual path. And since we broke the spiritual circles and told Mr. God that we don't need his guidance, and this is actually what happened in the Garden of Eden. It is not God who expelled us from the garden, but we, humans, expelled God from this earth, and the garden was turned into hell. How can things work without the presence of beloved God? So we complain about this while we don't know how to reestablish God on earth. And the way to reestablish God on earth is to learn to work on the spiritual circles. That's the only way we can do it. As long as we are not going to rehabilitate, reconstruct the spiritual circles, hell on earth will prevail. Because sanskars are not being erased. And these days, the only way for humans to erase sanskars was the main instrument, unfortunately, is going to war. Since I went to war many times to wars, under Baba's directives, I experienced, not through theoretical studies, but actual facts, how sanskars are being destroyed. You go to an action, things happen, people get killed from both sides or wounded, and you experience the whole madness of this, but you experience as well, under Baba's guidance, I experience the removal of sanskars. And when an egoist goes to war, goes to defend his motherland, is a spiritual victory, as Baba himself said. So to eliminate war and to complain about the wars without real understanding how to eliminate it spiritually is sheer ignorance or even hypocrisy. How can we eliminate something which we refuse to eliminate? We're inventing some artificial world, a soap pink world, non-real. There's not any real spiritual understanding and want to make it wonderful and beautiful. And this, when you have been participating with Baba lovers and other spiritual organizations, they don't understand it, unfortunately. Many understand the root cause of war, but they don't know what to do about this. This unfortunately is the case. So I think this will be enough for the time being. And next time, we'll go deeper into the phenomenon of war and peace, of course. We are not pessimistic. We continue to work. We talk about the successes and the failures of the Advents. And actually what's happening today, these days, which I think is a few Advents have been colliding here in the Middle East and the world. See you folks next time. Take care.